All right, welcome back to Canada's fastest growing podcast, focusing on sports betting in the Canadian Football League. This is Placed on the 55, and each week we give you our picks for the upcoming games. Jess, we just finished week 9 where we both ended 3-1 for that week, bringing my year to date 19-17, and you're back up to 500 with a record of 18-18. But I think you might have been sweating bullets at the end of last Thursday's game when you sat 0-7, and the Lions had perhaps their worst game in 25 years. You're a huge Lions fan. What do you think is going on in Lions Nation right now?
After going 15-11 to start the season back in week 7, then I lost the remaining 2 games in that week, and then lost all 4 last week, would be in week 8, and then in week 9, I started off the week with another loss by my BC Lions getting absolutely destroyed out in Winnipeg, and I'm just like, man, that's horrible picking. Like, to be and I got a 7-game losing streak for what we're trying to do. Thankfully, I did make a comeback, won the last 3 games of the week to come into week 10 at an even 18-18. But that BC Lions game out in Winnipeg, my goodness. Like, I'm just you got to think about the expense of getting a CFL football team from BC out to Winnipeg. Sure, it's only halfway across the country, but you got to pick, you got at least 50 guys between the players, the coaches, trainers, medical staff, at least 50 people. And you got to fly them out at least a day before the game. You got to put them up in a hotel, and then you got to feed them, like just feed everybody. And I can only imagine if I was Mr. Doman on that flight home from Winnipeg after they lost 25-0. And to think about, if I was him, I would be calculating money in my head going like, okay, I spent all this money on this road trip and you losers couldn't even score a rouge for me? Come on.
I said last week that they were the highest scoring team in the league and they couldn't score anything. Like, all you have to do is kick the ball through the end zone. At that stage, you're not looking for 1 point. You're looking for multiple points to try to make a game out of it.
But you would think they would at least miss a field goal or something would happen in the second or third quarter that you'd at least get something. Like, even if just a field goal. Like, never mind a missed field goal. Score a goddamn field goal. Like, they only had 3 first downs through the entire game. Not like the first quarter. The whole 60 minutes, 3 first downs. Like, what the hell? And they just came off a bye. Now, that's one other thing I was kind of worried about, and that's happened to BC teams and other teams in the past, is that when they come off a long bye, they come back, a little tired. They didn't rest that much. They've flown around a bunch. And I wonder how many Lions, left Vancouver before coming back to Vancouver and then going out to Winnipeg, because it certainly looked like the entire team went to Las Vegas for freaking 2 weeks.
I mean, it is summertime. BC's an amazing place in the summer. Too much R&R.
Well, if they actually stayed in BC, I don't know. Did they all go to Kelowna and hang out? Like, I doubt it. It sounds like they went to Alabama and stuff like that.
Probably, yeah. Somewhere back home to see family. I don't know. It was just shocking. I was hopeful that they could win with a couple free points on the spread.
Yeah, I believe it was 4.5, I believe. And then they lose their quarterback at the same time. Like, good gosh.
Yeah, he's not supposed to be out for too long, maybe 2 weeks, 2 to 6, I think they said. So ideally, they go 50-50 out of those games without Vernon Adams, and they still hold a spot near the top of the West when it's all said and done. I finished 3-1 last week. That's my second week in a row going 3-1.
Oh, good for you. And we were both 3-1 this week, so that's probably our combined best week so far.
I'm pretty stoked, though. 19-17. I've been under 500 a few times this season, so I feel like I'm maybe starting to put down some roots above 500. We'll see.
After getting my ass handed to me over those 7 losses in a row, I tried to change my luck. So, I went down to Hastings Racetrack with my son, to try my luck with the ponies. And, well, when the gun went off, they shot my horse. I'll tell you, Johnny, I got no luck and no respect either. After the race, I took my son over to Playland right next door to Hastings, and we were walking around, and I said, hey, would you like to check out the crazy house? And he said, nah, no, Dad, save your money. We'll be back at Mom's place in about an hour and a half. Okay, enough joking around. This week's spreads are courtesy of Dangerfield's Sportsbook and Casino. We thank Dangerfield's for inspiring those jokes and providing this week's spreads.
All right, so moving into week 10, Saskatchewan rides into Ottawa, where the Red Blacks are 4-0 at home this season. Will the mediocre Rough Riders cover that 1.5, Jess?
Be the toughest pick of the week for me, surprisingly enough, but because I'm not sure if either of these teams are actually for real. We've been joking all season long how the Roughies look somewhat mediocre, but we also had the Red Blacks to finish third in the East, at best. If we were talking about these teams back in the 1980s, I would say something like, I like the Eastern Riders to beat the Green Riders on Thursday.
Well, I too, Jess, think the Red Blacks got this one. Drew Brown has looked great all season. Who would have expected them to be second in the East? How long they'll stay there for, I'm not sure, but I think they'll stay there for at least one more week, and I'm going to go with the Red Blacks this week also.
All right.
So that takes us to Friday night's game, where, if you remember from week 9, I called it. For some strange reason, I think looking at the standings, going into week 10, both teams are going to be 4-4.
I do remember.
That's right. And this week we see the 4-4 Stamps gallop into BMO Field to face the 4-4 Boatmen. The Stamps are favored by 1.5. Jess, is that justified?
Yeah, it's a tight one. Dukes and the Argos looked unstoppable last week in the first half, so we're going to have the second half of the home and home with these guys. And nothing happened much for the Stamps until the fourth quarter. I wonder if the Argos got complacent after the first 45 minutes. The Stamps came out and Meyer looked awesome all of a sudden. They're whipping balls down the field and they came back and won that game. Don't mean to talk about last week too much. I like the Stamps to continue rolling. I think they're going to get Chad Kelly back next week. We haven't really heard much on that. There was actually an official press release that came out and said that there was, no official announcement. So they put an announcement out to say there was no announcement. I really wonder what hell actually happened. It sounds crazy, but I like the Stamps to keep it rolling. It's kind of sketchy, and they are giving up they're favored by 1.5 points, but I'm still taking them.
Boatmen have lost a couple in a row. Home and home split them. One wins, one loses. I think the Boatmen are going to go 5-4 at the end of this one, and I'll go with Toronto for game 2 this week.
Okay.
Brings us to the Tabbies. They're significant underdogs against the Owls. But can the Owls really cover that 7.5 with Alexander at the helm?
We got 3 games this week that are all at 1.5 point spreads. And in this one, Hamilton and Montreal, we got more of a traditional CFL spread, which is 7.5, with the Owls being favored to beat up the Tabbies. I think they will. So I'm taking the Alouettes at McGill. Now, obviously, the quarterback situation in Montreal is pretty crazy. Fajardo has been out. Their second stringer is now out for the season, Evans, and he looked pretty good last week, but he's now gone for the year. Forget him. But the Montreals are still favored by 7.5, with potentially the third string quarterback. So even though I'm taking Montreal, as I'm talking and listening to myself out loud, I'm like, why would you be doing that? You're going to put in their third stringer. But I'll tell you why I'm doing that is because Montreal's defense is so fantastic. Earlier this afternoon, I was listening to TSN's Matt Dunnigan, and he said the Alouettes could just down the ball on first and second down on every series and just punt it away on third down, and they would still win games because of their defense. So if Dunnigan's that fantastic about it, I'm taking the Owls to cover that touchdown and a half.
I don't think so. I think Tabbies are going to lose, but lose by less than a touchdown and a half. So I'm going to go with the Tabbies.
Well, so holy crap. So you're taking the Tabbies again. Well, as they say, even a broken clock is correct twice per day. So good luck with that Tabbies pick this week, John.
Yeah, I finally won a bet last week.
We both did.
Exactly. Maybe it wasn't me winning the bet. It was just me following your winning bet. So thanks for that.
Well, you're welcome.
The last game of this week, Jess, is the Lions, and they are heading into Edmonton. The Lions are on a 2-game losing streak. They haven't won since July 13th. They haven't scored a point since July 21st. What do you think? Obviously, you're a Lions supporter. Do they get your support this week?
Well, what I'm shocked that we didn't mention the spread is that the Edmontons are actually favored by 1.5 points. Like, I had to triple check that. I'm like, are you serious? Edmonton at 1-7 is a point and a half. Even if they're a half of even if they're just a half a point favorite, that's insane. That a 1-7 team is a favorite to win a football game against a team that is, picked by most to, at least go to the Grey Cup.
I disagree with you on that. Their defense definitely garners that respect. Sure, they're at the bottom of the West looking up at the Lions who sit atop, but the Lions don't have their starting quarterback and their backup quarterback is questionable. I mean, this is going to be a game of defense. You're going to have Lions defense against Edmonton, and all you're hoping is that one of the offenses gets a few points and is able to break out with a score. Ford looked good from the pocket. He didn't have to run the ball to get points and be a threat. I'm going to go with Edmonton this week. I think they are going to win, and I think they're probably going to win by a lot and easily cover that 1.5.
I tend to agree. I was really impressed with Trey Ford, and it's awesome that that's a Canadian quarterback, which is pretty much, it's rare. He counts towards the Canadian content in the CFL.
So we're both going to Edmonton.
Yep.
The lowly Elks, led by Jarius Jackson.
Yeah, have we actually officially picked our Lions at Edmonton game yet for Week 10?
Yeah, we did. We both said Edmonton. We both agreed.
I'm changing that. No,
Oh,
I
yeah?
like the Lions to win. Yeah.
You're going to go Lions. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Maybe I was reading off the wrong teleprompter like Joe Biden. For a free 1.5 points for the Lions, that's like a gift. It's like Christmas in August.
I mean, based on what you're wearing, that really surprises me. So, well done. Sticking your neck out like that.
I can't believe it's already Week 10 in the CFL. Where'd the summer go? Oh, and I remember one thing you mentioned a couple of weeks ago about how, the CFL might get passed by because it's in the summer and you want to be out in a boat and so forth. But how about the Summer Olympics? I haven't watched any of those, just because I'm out riding my bike and doing other stuff. Do the Summer Olympics get passed by because they're not in September?
I think the Olympics have always had that time zone challenge, right? If it's not in the same time zone as you, then it's either going to work well because you're at home eating dinner and why not turn it on, or it's going to work terribly because it's in the middle of the night and you're sleeping. Allowing viewers to digest all of the Olympics through on-demand apps like TSN and CBC and whoever else is running them, it's great. I've been following the Olympics. I've watched a lot of sports, including synchronized diving and swimming. So there you go.
And probably some volleyball.
Yeah, definitely some volleyball. That's our main sport in this household. And yeah, it's good. But it's short-lived. So you kind of go out of your way to consume that and digest that. Whereas with CFL and some of these other sports, it's just kind of on. It's the middle of the season. Nothing really matters. For some, CFL is just noise until the NFL starts. I mean, this weekend, some of the CFL games are up against preseason NFL games. Mm-hmm. They might lose a few viewers because if you have 3 hours to invest in the television, are you going to do it on Saturday night to watch the CFL? Or are you going to do it on Saturday night to watch the NFL?
Well, I know what I would do, but I also think I know what my dad that lives in Phoenix would do.
And we're here for the CFL, and we are here talking to the fans of the CFL who are fans just like us. So on that, Jess, we're going to wrap it up. Week 10, it's on its way. Thanks for listening to Placed on the 55. You can email the show, placedonthe55@gmail.com. Remember to like, share, and review. Chat to you in week 11, Jess.
Right on, John.